All right, welcome back to the channel. So Bob Arum is back at it again, comparing his fighters to an all-time great. This time, he says that Terence Crawford is as good or better than Sugar Ray Leonard. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back. So Bob Arum of Top Rank Boxing, Top Rank Promotions. I don't know which one it is, but it's Top Rank, and they are a boxing promoter, and they promoted both Sugar Ray Leonard, I do believe through a co-promotional deal with Don King, if I'm correct, and Terence Crawford. Now, Bob Arum is as a promoter, the job of the promoter is to sell the fighter. So you're going to hear, in order to draw a picture of the greatness of a fighter for a fan, someone comparing one fighter to the other. Bob Arum has come up with some really ludicrous ones as of late. The primary one was with Vasily Lomachenko, when he says that Lomachenko is the best fighter since a young Muhammad Ali, right? That's how much he loves him some Vasily Lomachenko. That means that Bob Arum thinks that Vasily Lomachenko is better than Floyd Mayweather Jr., Manny Pacquiao, Roy Jones, Andre Ward, Pernell Whitaker, Oscar De La Hoya, go on and on and on and on and on. Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, just marvelous Marvin Hagler, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. and Salvador Sanchez, just on and on and on, right? All the way to the early Muhammad Ali. So best fighter since 1970. Now, when Bob Arum said that, I was like, yeah, you know what, Bob? You're bugging, and I'm not buying that. But what he says about Terence Crawford, on the other hand, I have to wonder. Maybe it's just because I just got done watching a lot of Terence Crawford fights, so he's fresh in my mind. But when Bob Arum says that Terence Crawford is as good or better than Sugar Ray Leonard, I actually had to pause and think, is that true? And my conclusion is that he just might be. However, it's not going to make much of a difference because of Bob Arum. Yeah, that's what it is. Because when I'm looking at the two guys fight, now I've watched all of Sugar Ray Leonard's fights that I could watch, so I'm very familiar with Sugar Ray Leonard. Extremely fast, extremely powerful, extremely tough, just, man, a sensational fighter. Won Olympic gold in 1976, beat guys like Wilfredo Ramirez, God, man, what's his name? Wilfred Benitez. I was going to say Wilfred Benitez, beat Tommy Hearns, knocked out Tommy Hearns, fought Duran 2 times, beat Duran, beat Hagler, won up, moved up, got a light heavyweight belt, or maybe a 168-pound belt. I remember against Donnie Lalonde, all the way after, coming in and out with his eye problems and his frequent retirements. But dude, without a doubt, Sugar Ray Leonard, one of the best welterweights, man, that I've ever seen. So to say that Terence Crawford is as good as him is a big statement. But when I'm looking at Terence Crawford, there's nothing that I see that he cannot do. So it's hard for me to say that he's not as good as Ray Leonard. Just looking at the way that he throws punches, looking at the way that he moves, I think Ray Leonard might have been, his hands are probably a little faster. He's a little bit, a good bit bigger. But, Terence Crawford's a great fighter. The only problem with Terence Crawford is that I can't come up with anybody that he beat that was significant. There is no Roberto Duran there to say, yeah, well, what would he do if he ran into Roberto Duran? Well, I know what'll happen with Sugar Ray Leonard if he runs into Duran. He's gonna beat Duran, or he might lose one time and then the next time he's gonna humiliate him. Okay, he's fought great champions. I know what he's going to do against a tall, somebody that's a lot taller, longer, that's outboxing him. He's going to get on the inside and knock him out, like he did with Tommy Hearns. He can fight a guy that can fight southpaw and orthodox and switch in Hagler. I know it's like Larry. The best way to say it is that Sugar Ray Leonard to me is a known commodity because of what he's put forth in the ring. I can't say the same thing about Terrence Crawford, not because of Terrence Crawford, but because of Bob Arum. And the fact that Bob Arum has not put this guy in situations that are anywhere near the situations that Sugar Ray Leonard was placed in. So you just got to say you don't know. Now, there's chances. Now, it's reasonable to say, well, hey, Sugar Ray Leonard came up at a time when they were able, and he was able to get better fights, right? Yeah, he got better fights. But there are better fights. And he got, matter of fact, Sugar Ray Leonard got the best fights that there were to be made because he was Sugar Ray Leonard. He came out of the Olympics as a gold medalist right on the heels during the time when Muhammad Ali was still the number one fighter in the world. So, Bob Arum, who was still putting on Muhammad Ali, who still was putting on Muhammad Ali events when he signed Sugar Ray Leonard, thought, hey, man, I think I can invest in another one of these guys if they can pan out and look like Muhammad Ali did. That's back when Bob Arum was still pushing black fighters, But Bob Arum's not in that business anymore. So Bob Arum doesn't have the ability to do it because all of those fighters that even could be considered that same caliber of competition that Sugar Ray Leonard had, they're over there at the PBC. And what I mean by the same caliber of fighter, I'm not saying that the guys that Sean Porter is a Tommy Hearns or Errol Spence is a Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they're not good fighters either. But that's not my point. I'm just saying that those are the best fighters in their weight class at the time, which is the most you can do. So at 140 pounds, 47 pounds at least, you can't say that. You could say that Sugar Ray Leonard fought the best guys at 147 when he was there. The only guy that I really hear of him not having fought was 140 pound Aaron Pryor. But with Terrence Crawford, you have Sean Porter, you have Eugenio Ugas, Errol Spence Jr., Manny Pacquiao, Danny Garcia. All of those guys, are people that are at his weight class, and he hasn't fought any of them. And he's the only guy in that class of welterweights that you could say that about, because you can't say Sean Porter hasn't fought the top guys in his division. He fought Kell Brook. He's fought everybody. He fought Keith Thurman. He fought Kell Brook. He fought Danny Garcia. He fought Errol Spence. Danny Garcia has fought Sean Porter and has fought Keith Thurman. Manny Pacquiao fought Keith Thurman, fought Adrian Broner. He fought a bunch of other guys at 147 pounds earlier in his career. So, it's just, as far as making the comparison about whether he's better than, is good or better than Sugar Ray Leonard, maybe he could be. If there's a candidate for somebody that could be and should be mentioned with those guys, hey man, Terrence Crawford is one of those guys. Terrence Crawford deserves to be mentioned as far as his skill set and what he can bring to the ring. Yeah, man, I think that he'd have a chance to give Sugar Ray Leonard a go. I think he'd be able to give Tommy Hearns a go. I think he beats Roberto Duran. I think he beats Roberto Duran, except for, he gonna have to stay southpaw a little bit longer against Roberto Duran. But at least, and you can disagree with me, but at least there's that argument that can be had. But in order for that to happen, he's got to get the fights. In order for me to say I know what he's about, he has to get those fights in with those top welterweights. And the guy that is making this comparison, the irony of it is the guy that is making the comparison between the two is one of the guys that gave Sugar Ray Leonard all of the fights that he got in order to get there. And now he's here with Thomas Hearns. He's here with Terrence Crawford, but because he shifted away from fighters like that, where he could have signed, he He had the ability. He could have. These guys have come out in the pros. These are guys that would have been recruited and should have been recruited by Top Rank to the extent that Top Rank had recruited Lomachenko. But they lucked into Terrence Crawford because they weren't really trying to build that. They're trying to build the Eastern European push. And it's just terribly ironic, man. Terribly ironic to me that how that panned out. But Terrence Crawford, just to be clear though, you know, I think he has a chance. I would lean towards Sugar Ray Leonard. But, you know, hey, man, a lot of respect still to Terrence Crawford and his abilities in the ring. And here's a solemn prayer that, you know, Bob Arum will eventually get a situation where we can see, you know, whether Terrence Crawford really is at that level. And also we'll get to see if other of the welterweights are at those levels at that level as well by getting one more guy in the mix. Right now, we're really close to being able to have a golden era in the welterweight division, man. It really is just a couple fights away. Anyway, it is what it is. That's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.